we're so glad to have another very smart Democrat, very smart Republican here. And Steve, I want to talk about some specifics, but I want to start with you. So Linda said very openly and definitively that Donald Trump was off to a great start. And she described in vivid, explanation why she thought, just from an analytical point of view, he was. Do you agree? And if so, how would you describe it? If not, why would you argue they're not off to a great start from their own point of view? Not in terms of their policies that you don't agree with, but just from execution, do you think they're off to a great start?
I don't agree with any of their policies so far, virtually
Yeah.
none. But and I think great may be, maybe I would say good, not great.
Okay.
But I think they've had a pretty good start. And I think, look, I think Trump, I call it the three A's. I think Trump has three things going for him. One, and had going for him, and it's why he got elected. One is authenticity. You can agree with him, you can disagree with him, but the guy radiates authenticity. And sometimes some of the things he says that you disagree with the most sort of reinforce that authenticity. You say, why would anybody say that? Well, because that's authentically what he believes. Two, he commands attention, just constant attention. And I think, we will see over the next 4 years, does at some point that attention become, people get tired of it. But at the beginning of a presidency, this command of attention is very different than what we saw with Joe Biden, who did not command attention for a lot of reasons. Third, action. He takes a lot of actions. And I think that the American people want action. And sometimes as I read a lot about people's reaction to things Trump does, I think some of it is people say, I don't like exactly what he's doing, but I want to do something. And I think he's been masterful at doing that. It's sort of, I don't like everything he's doing on immigration. I don't like everything he's doing on Doge, but I think something should happen. And I think he benefits a lot from that. So I think his authenticity, his command of attention, and his action are so far serving him pretty well. I don't know that will all, play out over months and years. And when you run up against Congress, which we can talk about, which is a complicated place that doesn't, that I could argue has problems with all three of those things. But so far, I think he's doing pretty good.
Mercedes, I would say drop the F and Mike. That was great, right? That was a good list.
I know.
The
Wow,
three
Steve,
A's.
I think you and I can become best friends quickly here.
Well, I
Mercedes.
disagree with every single
Yeah,
thing he's
no, I
doing.
understand. I understand, but he's got the three A's going for him. Mercedes,
Yes.
I know, just because I'm psychic, that you think it's also starting well. And you used to work with President Trump in
Right.
communications over there. What could they be doing better? And you don't need to be like crazy critical, but what would you like to see more of, less of?
Before I go into what I think they should be doing
Yeah.
better, I think what's interesting to note is that, since I worked in the first administration and I was brought in 6 months in the first term because there was so much infighting, such disorganization in that part of the administration. So they needed individuals that had worked in the White House to come in. I was brought in to develop the processes for a lot of the first term, and to watch the president and his team be able to execute the amount of work that they've done in such a short period of time. It shows you how prepared they were for a while in getting these executive orders in motion, in understanding how the rollout process would be to get this done. And I find that their goal right now is to overwhelm the system. You overwhelm it so that the press is too busy going from one story to the next, to the next, to the next. It's not even giving the press a moment to digest what's happening. With that being said, and you're seeing, to Steve's point, there is this sense of motion and action happening, which I think the American people are hungry for. It's also making sure that you're pacing yourself so you don't lose those critical moments of showing these accomplishments that you're doing. So right now it's quantity, get a lot of it done in terms of these executive orders, and he is prioritizing the immigration issue, which for the first time in a long time in an election, immigration, just like the economy, were the two top issues when it came to what the American voters decided that was going to be what they were going to vote on. So watching him take action, I think, is really effective. Mark, you put me in a hard position when you ask me what we think
Just a tweak,
President
just
Trump.
a little tweak, just a tweak. I'm not.
I gotta tell you, I would probably pace it a little better so you don't lose the news cycle. So, like, for example,
Yeah.
yesterday they had this massive announcement on the biggest infrastructure in history. Okay. This is with OpenAI, with Oracle, with SoftBank. It's a Stargate initiative, bringing jobs to places like Texas. Let it breathe a little more, right? Like,
Yeah.
let yourself be able to capture one of these moments where, in essence, you can then really hone in a little deeper in then putting out your surrogates to talk about it, followed by making sure that then you have your echo chamber basically saying, applauding the efforts and getting this done. So that's where you have to manage that quantity versus making sure that you don't lose the quality of these announcements. The president just broke right now the breaking story on declaring the Houthis as a terrorist organization. So again, let these breathe a little more would be my suggestion as you're in terms of making sure that you're getting the bang for your buck in these
Right.
big announcements.